The invitation arrived on a dull Tuesday afternoon. Dinner at my place tonight. I have something to tell you. Olivia's text felt oddly formal, considering how we used to talk about everything. It had been months since I last visited her house, the house that once felt like my second home. We'd spent countless nights there, cramming for exams, binge-watching old movies, comforting each other through breakups and bad days. But nothing could have prepared me for what was about to happen that night. I arrived at Olivia's place right on time. She greeted me at the door, practically bouncing with excitement. "You're not going to believe this," she squealed, dragging me inside. "My dad's getting married again." I blinked, surprised but genuinely happy for him. After 10 years of being a widower, he deserved another shot at happiness. As Olivia continued rambling about wedding plans, we entered the dining room, and that's when I saw her. Lauren. Time slowed. She stood there, effortlessly graceful, her dark brown hair now threaded with silver. She looked older, wiser, and just as devastatingly beautiful. "Ava, this is Lauren, my soon-to-be stepmother." "Lauren, this is Ava, my best friend." Lauren's gaze locked onto mine for a fleeting moment, just long enough for me to see it, the flicker of recognition, the buried emotions. "Nice to meet you, Ava," she said smoothly, as if the name meant nothing to her. Her voice was steady, but her eyes told a different story. And just like that, I was pulled back 5 years into the past. I was 23, young, ambitious, naive. Lauren was everything I admired, brilliant, confident, respected. She was the kind of woman people gravitated toward effortlessly. It started with after-school meetings, exchanging ideas about a creative writing project for our students. Then came the late-night emails. Then came the texts. And then one night, when we were the last 2 people in the building, she hesitated at the door. "Ava," she murmured, her fingers gripping the strap of her bag tightly. "I don't know if this is a good idea." "What isn't?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She looked at me, long enough for me to feel the air shift between us. I didn't give her time to overthink it. I closed the space between us and kissed her. It was reckless, inevitable. That night changed everything. For months, we lived in stolen moments. A brush of fingertips across a desk. Secret weekend getaways. The thrill of whispered confessions. But always with an unspoken truth hanging over us. This couldn't last. And then, the worst happened. Lauren called me to meet her on the rooftop of the school, our hidden place, the one where we always felt untouchable. But that night, the air felt heavy. She wouldn't look at me. "This has to stop." Her voice was quiet, but the finality in it cut deep. I took a step closer, my chest tightening. "Lauren, talk to me. What's wrong?" She clenched her jaw. "Dawson found out." My stomach dropped. "The principal?" She nodded, inhaling sharply. "He gave me a choice. Either I resign quietly, or he makes sure we both never work in education again." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. "We can fight this. We can go public, go to the school board." "Ava." She said my name like a plea. "We won't win. He doesn't care about what's fair. He just wants to protect the school's reputation." I shook my head, refusing to accept it. "So that's it? You're just going to leave?" She let out a shaky breath, finally looking at me. "If I stay, I'll destroy you too." The words shattered something inside me. And then, she turned and walked away. 3 days later, she was gone. "Wait, you two know each other?" Olivia's voice pulled me back to reality. Lauren spoke first, her tone perfectly neutral. "We worked at the same school years ago. Like I was nothing more than a name in an old roster." I forced a smile, pretending the words didn't sting. Later that evening, while Olivia was in the kitchen getting more wine, I felt Lauren's presence before she even spoke. "Ava." Her voice was softer now. I turned slowly, crossing my arms. "So you're really doing this? Marrying Olivia's dad?" She exhaled, running a hand through her hair. "I never expected to see you again. And yet, here we are." "Then." "I didn't have a choice back then," she admitted. "No? Because from where I stood, it looked like you left without a second thought." Lauren flinched. "I wanted to stay. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But Dawson made sure I couldn't. And I couldn't let him ruin your future too. For the first time that night, I saw it, the pain she had been carrying. And now? I challenged. What's your excuse now? Her lips parted slightly, but before she could answer, the clatter of dishes in the kitchen snapped us back to reality. Olivia was calling us for dessert. And just like that, the moment was gone. For weeks, I avoided Lauren, but tension simmered every time we crossed paths. And then, the wedding day arrived. I was there, sitting stiffly among the guests, watching as Lauren stood at the altar. Her hands trembled slightly, though no one else seemed to notice. The officiant cleared his throat. Do you, Lauren, take Henry to be your lawfully wedded husband? Silence. Too long of a silence. Lauren inhaled deeply. I'm sorry. Gasps filled the room. Henry's face darkened in confusion. I can't do this. A wave of murmurs swept through the crowd. Olivia stood frozen, horror dawning in her eyes. Lauren turned, and for the first time, she didn't hesitate. She walked straight toward me. Ava. Chaos erupted. That night, Olivia refused to speak to me. Lauren disappeared, not with Henry, not with me. Just gone. And I knew, deep down, that no matter how much we wanted each other, the world had never been meant for us. From now on, every time we crossed paths, it would be a battle between what we felt and what we could never have. Do you think Lauren and Ava can find their way back to each other, or are they destined to become nothing more than a memory? Should their story continue in a part 2? Let us know what you think. This story is a lesson in love and courage which reminds us that love is rarely simple, and sometimes the greatest obstacles are not the ones imposed by the world, but the ones we create for ourselves out of fear, doubt, and regret. If there's one thing to take away from Lauren and Ava's journey, it's this: love that is real and deep is worth fighting for. No matter the barriers, whether they are societal expectations, past mistakes, or impossible choices, love demands courage. It asks us to be honest, to stand up for what we truly want, and to not let fear dictate our future. If you've ever faced an impossible love, what would you do differently? Would you take the risk? Would you fight for it? Maybe, just maybe, Lauren and Ava's story isn't over yet. Comment below if you want part 2. Support us by subscribing to the channel. Which moment of the kiss resonated with you the most? Or was there another part of the story that touched your heart? Share your thoughts with everyone in the comments. We'd love to hear your